even if Trump said they'd give him the middle finger. The Democrats would definitely give him the middle finger. So we really need to look at this divisiveness, and we need to call them all on carpet and tell them to grow up and work things out. We can't just blame it on the president or think the president can decree it.
Every Sunday, we're going to take the temperature of US politics, bringing together two experts from either side of the political divide, and we're going to be discussing the stories that are making waves across the ocean. Today, I'm joined by Jan Halper-Hayes, who's a political psychologist and former campaign advisor to Donald Trump, and Michael Yaki, who's joining us. He's a political analyst and former senior advisor to Nancy Pelosi. Welcome both to Times Radio. Nice to have you with us this Sunday.
Thank you, Ryan.
Let us begin at the beginning. You're welcome. This week saw the kickoff of the Great American State Fair, a 16-day state fair to celebrate the 250th anniversary since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The fair has dozens of pavilions for 50 states in addition to a Ferris wheel, rodeo, and plenty more typical of a classic state fair. Predictably enough, Trump's speech has been heavily criticised by his opponents for not meeting the moment. They complained that it was no different to the speeches made at one of his own rallies, deeply partisan, self-promoting, and totally uninterested in the concept of national unity. Here's a clip.
In my first term, I rebuilt our military and created the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had the greatest economy in history. And now we are going to blow that away. We're doing better, much better than even the first term. America's 250th year is set for an economic boom, the lights of which no nation has ever seen before. In 4 long years of the last administration, which was a total disaster, they got less than $1 trillion of new investment in our country. In my first 11 months, we secured commitments for $19.1 trillion of new investment from all over the globe.
So our first debate question today is Donald Trump making the 250th anniversary of America all about him. Could it be the case? Let's ask Michael, we'll start with you. In what way was this event meaningfully distinct from a Trump rally?
I'm not actually sure it was anything different than what you normally see at a Trump rally. But I think that the broader question is, this is America's 250th. And I was actually fortunate enough to be around for our bicentennial, our 200th. And it was a very much different atmosphere. It was bipartisan. I remember as a young kid walking the Freedom Trail in Boston and going to Independence Hall, and then spending the 4th on the Mall in Washington, D.C. And this is something where I think it's a great time to reflect, to celebrate, to talk about the world's longest constitutional democracy. But I think that instead, what you saw in that speech and in pretty much anything that comes out of the president's mouth regarding this event has been all about him and not about the broader question of what is America, who is America, and where are we going into the future. And I think that's unfortunate, but there are a lot of Americans who are nevertheless taking stock of that, doing their own celebrations in their home, in their backyards, in their communities. And I think that we will have a cracking 250th on Saturday. But it is unfortunate that that the leader of America, the president of the United States, is not taking this opportunity to bring us together rather than making it about himself.
Jan, can I bring you in on that now? What Michael was saying, would you concur in any of with any of what he said? Given the nature of proceedings, should probably be one for the whole nation, bring everyone together, rather than what felt like a partisan speech from the president.
Well, I can definitely sympathize with him for the bicentennial because it was very exciting. But the time of the bicentennial, our country was far more connected. We didn't have such a divisive political climate. Our Congress is broken. It's not even dysfunctional anymore. It's broken. And both sides do not realize that they have a leadership responsibility in terms of image as well and how they interact. So to expect Donald Trump to have given a speech of let's all come together when the Democrats don't want to come together and the Republicans don't appear to making any overtures it seems to me to be a moot point. And the other thing is that if all the media is covering are parts of his speech, I was sitting at the memorial, close to the memorial, listening to all the music and all the people that were there. And it was a huge celebration, and it's 16 days, and every state has their own showing. So it's actually far more than that. But if that's all the media is going to show and talk about, then that's the impression that people are going to get.
Is that the,
Ryan,
Michael?
I don't disagree with what Jan has been saying. I mean, I'm someone who believed in bipartisan foreign policy, a bipartisan Congress. Obviously, there's going to be political differences, and that's been the beauty of the American system. But I think this is about the time of do you just descend and reinforce that divisiveness, or do you, as the president, make something of the moment? And I think that's kind of where my disappointment is. It's not so much that I'm used to the partisanship. I'm used to the smacking of Joe Biden and Obama by President Trump. But this is something different, and that's where I have deep feelings of disappointment and frustration, because yes, our political system needs a lot of help. Divisiveness is, as Jan said, at an all-time high. But we've ascended through this before. We could do it again, but it doesn't help when the president, having this moment, having this podium, doesn't rise to that occasion.
Jan, do you see what
Michael?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a minute, Michael. To your point, I couldn't agree more. But when the Republicans can't get their act together and be united, and Trump is having to yell at them, how are we going to have a president to say, hey, Democrats and Republicans, come together at this point of our 250th? It is a mess, and we need to face that and be talking about it. It's a mess on both sides, and that is showing up. People are so aware of that.
Jan, can I make a suggestion that maybe what Michael appears to be saying is that the president could take this as an opportunity to, rather than be caught up in the noise of Congress, maybe rise above it and lead from the front with a sense of occasion?
Well, I understood that. And what I was saying is that I agree conceptually, and it is completely impossible for all of the players that are there, because one, they don't want it. And two, even if Trump said it, they'd give him the middle finger. The Democrats would definitely give him the middle finger. So we really need to look at this divisiveness, and we need to call them all on carpet and tell them to grow up and work things out. We can't just blame it on the president or think the president can decree it. No, it's not going to work that way.
Michael, he said that the president's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's I appreciate what Jan is saying, but I think there's a little cynicism in there as well. I think that Democrats and Republicans all want our country to be more united. We look and we see these divisions in our country, exacerbated by some of the people inside the administration. But I think that all of us believe in America. We believe in our Constitution, and having the president use this opportunity to say, you know what, let's take a step back. Let's remember the healthy debates that our founding fathers had, which were pretty vicious at sometimes. When you read the
Reports at the time, yeah, they were robust, yeah.
I mean, they were robust, and they were pretty colorful, even by our times today. But I think that we rise above that, and we talk about the greater principles that we care about. I think that Jan understands this too, and I think that the issue is going to be the discussion is all about whether or not we can do something and rise above it. Can you make the moment? And again,
Is Jan right, though, Michael, in suggesting that if the president decided to do a peace and love speech for all comers to celebrate the moment, that the Democrats would, quote unquote, flip the bird? I mean, is it as a
I think they'd be gobsmacked.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that's a good thing. I mean, look, if the president were to give that kind of speech, I don't know if he's capable of doing it. If he were to do that, as partisan as I am, as someone who has opposed a lot of the policies of this president, I'd be the first one to stand up and say that's what America's about. That's what we should be talking about. And notwithstanding the fact that you may not appreciate who the speaker is or what the speaker's past record is, the fact is that this is a moment for our nation. He is the president of our country. For good or for bad, he was elected legitimately by the people of this country, and as that responsibility to be the leader of all this country, if he were to make that moment, I would be the first one to stand up and applaud and say thank you for taking that opportunity to do that.
Jan, what about that? Well, there's a chance for peace and love.
There's a lot that Michael is saying that I am in agreement with, but he's using the pronoun we, what we want. And my point is we can want it all for our entire life as much as we want. We can pray, we can beg. I'm focused on our politicians, these elected officials who refuse to come together. I wish that they would all be a John Fetterman and say, I put country before party. But that is not their attitude. So my comments are definitely not what the public wants, because we would love it. It would be great. And I'm sure that Donald Trump would really like that, but he's realistic enough to know that there's no point in him saying it.
Yeah, Michael?
It's one of those things where, could England score 9 goals against France? Possible, but I don't know if it's going to be very likely. I mean, this is a president who hasn't shown that ability to do that. Like I said, if he did, I'd be the first one to stand up and applaud. And I don't think it's. I disagree with Jan a little bit. I know that our politics are broken. That's why you see so many fissures even within the Democrat and the Republican parties right now. But I've also been in politics long enough, and I know Jan has too, to know that we have been through hard times. We've been through tough moments. And the ability of a president, whether it's a fireside chat by FDR, whether it's the speech at Gettysburg by Abraham Lincoln, there are times when a president can heal, when a president can use this moment to bring people together, notwithstanding the deep divisions of a civil war, of a world war. But I think that, I don't know if he's capable of doing that. And that, I think, is really the sad part of this 250th birthday of this country, which I love. And I think that a lot of people who have been here for the World Cup have grown to understand why we do love our country the way that we do.
Let's move to another topic of conversation here, because US Congressman Dan Goldman has been defeated in a New York primary election, capping a clean sweep for candidates backed by New York's Mayor Zoran Mamdani. I should say. It seems that anything the self-proclaimed Democrat Socialist touches turns to gold, and the more centrist wing of the party are all at sea. So, have the centre-left lost the Democrats' ideological civil war? That is the question. Jan, I'm going to ask you, as a Trump whisperer, so to speak, as looking at Mamdani in New York, are you excited at the prospect of this schism, if you will, or are you threatened by it?
Well, I'm not threatened by it, and I was born in New York. I had worked for the mayor of New York. I'm still a New Yorker in my blood, despite growing up in California. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with socialist principles. I don't agree with the candidate that beat Goldman, that wants open borders, wants to get rid of all the police. It's those policies, but We have to look at this generation that is so against capitalism and thinks socialism is going to be the answer for them.
Yeah, and that is the question that must be kind of tearing at the heart of the Democratic Party at the moment, Michael. You've got your old boss, Nancy Pelosi, and her generation, if you will, versus the AOCs and the Mamdanis, and this whole young, very, very funky, hip, very broad kind of appeal. Certainly in New York, we'll have to talk about beyond there in a minute. But there seems to be such an attractive kind of generation.
Well, it's interesting because I think it goes to a point made earlier by both Jan and myself, which is that people have lost a lot of faith in government. They've lost faith in their leaders, and I think that the Mamdani and I think that the groundswell dealing with like Dan Goldman and others, or the vacant 12th congressional seat that used to be Jerry Nadler's seat. Those are things that have been festering for a while. I think the Gaza has kind of coalesced and put that front and center. But I would hesitate to say that this is yes, he endorsed all these candidates. Yes, he enthusiastically threw his support behind it. But I think there are a lot of other factors going on. And I've heard I've heard this songbook before. In fact, when my boss was elected and in the election of '92, there was a lot of talk about the progressives are going to be taking over the Democratic Party, whatever. Then you had the Blue Dogs come in. I mean, we're the Democratic Party. We fight like this all the time. We have fissures. We have conflicts. Yeah. And Mamdani is having a moment, and more power to him. But I would say that when the squad was elected, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and others, they came in wanting to change everything, and under the Democratic Socialist banner, and you see with AOC, she was very pretty much quiet during this campaign. In my hometown, there was someone who used to be AOC's chief of staff running to fill the seat of my former boss, and he finished a distant third. This is one of those things where I think it's a question of candidates, it's a question of dissatisfaction, and I think when you think about the analysis of this, you have to think back not too many weeks ago about how people in the UK were thinking, well, is this the reform moment?
Yeah.
After the council elections, and then you see Annie Burnham just paste them in the by-election last week. So it's, I think that you can't be too quick to do generalities about where people are, as much as it is a measure of dissatisfaction, and that's really what people need to key on, is dissatisfaction with how the government is running or not running, and whether it's delivering for people or not. And I think that same sort of analogy between labor reform and the conservatives is the same kind of moment by moment analysis you have to do with regard to what Mamdani did in this past election. It is a moment, what it means for the long term, what it means for the future parties is to be debated. But what it does say more than anything is that people are fed up and sick and tired of the status quo, and they want change.
For sure. Briefly, John, do you think that the Mamdani and indeed the AOC revolution, for want of, let's call it a small rebellion for now, is going to be contained to your beloved New York?
Well, no, I don't think it's going to be contained, because if you look at what has gone on in Texas in their primaries, there are quite a few very progressive think tanks that raise a lot of money and put the money up for those primary campaigns. And some of the same things have happened in a very red state of Texas. So I think there will be pockets, and good, because that's really what our political system was supposed to be, is let's have all voices. But in terms of them having the power and having major impact, I don't see that.
Okay, our US debate will continue. Next up, we'll be asking if the World Cup has revived American soft power and why ranch dressing is in the headlines. Okay, welcome back. I'm joined by two great contributors, I have to say, this Sunday afternoon. Jan Halper-Hayes is a political psychologist and former campaign advisor to Donald Trump, and she's proudly wearing her Make America Great Again cap as she talks to us today. Michael Yaki is not wearing a Make America Great Again cap today, but he is a political analyst and former senior advisor to Nancy Pelosi. And of course, you're both very welcome. We've heard about the political stories making waves in the US, but what else are people talking about around the proverbial water cooler? Jan, you're up first. What stories have you picked up on this week?
Well, there's been a guy called Freddie that has been posting, and I'll tell you, across all the podcasts, Fox News, CNN, everyone's talking about it. And then there's another guy, I can't remember his name, but how impressed people are with how easy it is to be in America and all that they're benefiting from it. And so for Michael and I both saying it's a shame that the 250 isn't bringing that unity. We're going to have to vicariously get that feeling of unity and love of our country through Freddie and some of his other posters to restore or remember how great our country is. And our president
who's Freddie, Jan?
Freddie, he's German, I think. Michael,
he's a German tourist. Yeah,
tell us about him.
He's a German tourist who's over here for the World Cup and keeps posting whatever cities he's in, about the games, the arenas, just with great appreciation and glory. And he's amusing all of us. We want to know what Freddie's next expedition is. And then on the other side, South Dakota Republican Party just censured Senator Thune, which is not very good for him. There was a dinner, and a very strong grassroots person that gets voters registered had a ticket to go, paid. This is like a $500 event, and they wouldn't let him in. And part of this was because this guy is Republican. He's made incredible contributions in getting voters turned out, that Thune had put up almost a wanted poster, "Do not let this guy in," and it's caused quite a bit of an uproar and doesn't bode well for Senator Thune.
Okay, Michael, what stories have you got? We've heard some interesting takes there from Jan. The World Cup is getting a lot of mention. You mentioned England's 9-0 win over France. That may or may not happen, but for now, it is.
I watched the match yesterday. I was glued, and I was a little worried about the boys in the first half, but they came through.
They came through, that's for sure, and the French came through too the night before. But here we are, and is the World Cup exposing this rich tradition of migrants in the United States, or is that a liberal step too far?
No, I don't think it's a liberal step too far at all. I mean, this is, I think one of the things about this is you see the contradictions at work with Trump policies, because you have here exemplified by people like Freddie and others. I think my Instagram has been overtaken now by reels from people who are talking about the wonders of American gas stations and Walmarts and things like that. And I've experienced it as well. I mean, I'm Asian American, but I've spent a lot of time in the deep South, and the fact is that at the micro level, at the neighborhood level, at the neighborhood supermarket, what have you, you see the generosity of Americans. You see the heart of Americans. That part which has been part of our projection to the entire world for the past, certainly in the post-World War II era, for sure. That we're a big-hearted country, and the fact that we're embracing people like Freddie. I mean, Freddie had his flight canceled when he was trying to make the German match in Toronto, and you had people offering him private jets and, to get him up there, and then this would be the great American export to solve our trade deficit, right? French dressing. So, but it is certainly. I think a nice inflection point for our country to see these people from Ghana, from Senegal, from you see the support the Irish supporters for Cape Verde.
Yes, we own one of them, so we've taken full ownership.
Exactly. I saw.
Well
absolutely.
spotted. Yeah, that's for
so
sure.
I think that it's at a time when this president has cut our soft power agency for international development, the health centers across the world that deal with AIDS and with Ebola. These kinds of things that were part of of what I call the beating heart of what America is projected overseas.
Yeah.
At least people are now getting to see what that is really like in their communities, at the Buc-ee's, at the Chick-fil-A's, at the Costco's, as they go across our country and meet people who at the neighborhood and suburban level genuinely love the attention, but are generous and open-hearted and willing to serve people chicken and waffles at 1 a.m.
That sounds chicken and waffles at 1 a.m. Count me in. Okay, John, I'm sorry I didn't get time to go back to you, but I do think we got more love than loathing in that debate today, which can only be a good thing. And the beautiful game helping iron out the creases, shall we say. Thanks to both of you for being here today. Jan Halper-Hayes and Michael Yaki joining us to talk about the state of the American nation. Back shortly.